Hello, everyone. I am excited to have this conversation today with Gina Goodwin. As you know, I really started creating these conversations because I know that there are so many different modalities to achieve better wellness, better health, and just overall alignment in our lives. And when I find these conversations that I'm having offline, I'm often finding that I wish I would have recorded the conversation. And so I'm really excited to have Gina here to really tell us about hypnotherapy and her practice. So, a little bit about Gina is that she is among the top 2% of hypnotherapists who have been board certified. And she's also a master practitioner of NLP, so neuro linguistic programming. Oh my goodness. In her practice since 2015, she's been able to help these common challenges that people have. So, emotional trauma, stress, anxiety, fears, low self-worth, and just unwanted habits in general. She uses an evidence-based approach that's faster than that talk therapy and easier than willpower and really safer than medicine. She sees clients by Zoom currently, and no matter where they live, she's open to work with them with her husband, Todd, who's also a board certified hypnotherapist. So I will let you guys connect with her afterwards, and I'll make sure that we have all of that there. But I'm really excited to ask you all the questions. And yeah, I'm just ready to dive in. Are you?
Ready.
So, for those who are unfamiliar, we're going to start with the what is hypnotherapy first. And then I would really love to understand what got you into this work so that people can understand your passion behind it. So, for those who are unfamiliar with what hypnotherapy is, what actually is it?
Okay, so there's basically two parts I'd like to discuss about that. So, the state of hypnosis, like what it
Mhm.
actually feels like, is basically a relaxed state of concentration or focus that facilitates new learning. So, you can learn and unlearn things very, very quickly, including limiting beliefs, behaviors, bad habits. These are all learned, you're not born with them.
Mhm.
So, as quick as the mind learned to do that to help you feel good or feel safe, the mind can also unlearn it just as quickly through hypnosis and that hypnotic state, and then relearn faster and better ways to help you feel safe, to help you feel secure, to help you feel good. That works faster and better than what you've been doing.
Mhm.
Um, you're awake, you're relatively aware, you retain full control of yourself. And then I'll tell you what it's not. It
Yeah.
is not scary. It's not sleep. It's not mind control. You can't get stuck in hypnosis. And a hypnotist cannot make you say or do anything against your will.
Yeah.
So,
I think
that
it's
aside.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because, we had all these movies and I think even cartoons, maybe potentially, that like told us that hypnotherapy basically they could snap their fingers, you'd be out, you go eat an orange out of your refrigerator, like something random like that. And or that they could do it all the time. And so I'm really glad that you're breaking down that barrier behind what it actually is, because I think that there are so many misconceptions behind the practice itself and the true power of our mind and being able to really integrate back into a new understanding. So, we've talked about like what it is, but when did you first like tell us a little bit about your background and what got you started into this work?
So, before I say that, I will also describe the process of hypnosis. So, the
Mhm.
first was the feeling of what it feels like. It also
Mhm.
feels like a daydreamy, pleasant sort of feeling. And it's very relaxing. The process is with a professional hypnotist is a lot like a dance.
Mhm.
So, there's one that leads and one that follows. The dance continues only if both people want to do it. So, all hypnosis is also self hypnosis. So I'm not doing anything to the person. I'm
Mhm.
guiding them. They follow and they create the experience, which means whatever they experience is right for them.
Mm,
And it only works with the full cooperation of the client. So,
that makes sense. Well, and I think it's to me that feels so much more safe and grounding because I think often we give our power so much away. And that's why we need these different practices is to help us reclaim part of that power. So to hear you say that it's a supportive practice that is guided by what you're ready for, hopefully the listeners can hear that and feel a little bit more ease within their body about even approaching something like this. So thank you. That's really beautiful.
So how I got into this was a couple different reasons, very different reasons. But the first one was um, I used to work nightlife. I worked in some nightclubs when I was younger, in my 20s. I also, from there, I went on to luxury hospitality and bartending mostly. And I just, throughout all my years doing that, I saw how many problems people had,
Mm,
and how much they would spend on drinking and smoking and they're back week after week. And, it was just really sad to me after a while. It wasn't fun anymore.
mm,
And I just realized how many problems people actually have. And even before that, when throughout high school, I knew I wanted to help people. I just didn't know how I was going to do it because I didn't want to drug people. I didn't want to put people on medication, because something I stand for is I always felt like there had to be a solution that actually solves the problem versus just
mm,
masking symptoms or coping with it or having to learn to live with it. So
mhm.
I had that going on.
Yeah.
And then in around the same time where I was working in luxury hospitality, my mom passed away and I watched it happen, and she died of cancer, and I had PTSD. I had flashback. I mean, I wasn't officially diagnosed, but
Mhm,
I had flashbacks I couldn't control. I had PTSD. I had a string of bad habits to help me cope with all the crying I was doing, crying so much, almost got fired a few times. The anxiety was through the roof. The overload was just overwhelming, and it got to a point where I was laying down relaxing one night in bed, and I was 29 years old, and I felt my heart stop. And then it started a few seconds later and then stopped and then started a few seconds later. And I had never felt that before. Somehow I was able to remain calm. I was like, if I freak out about this right now, I don't know what's going to happen. So I
right.
just tried to remain calm and breathe, and then it stopped. Well, the palpitations stopped.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew I needed help. Like I
Mm,
knew. And I was really not wanting to go toward the conventional talk therapy, psychotherapist route because I knew they were going to put me on medication which have terrible side effects, such as
mhm,
suicide can be one of them.
mhm,
And so I didn't want to go that route. I just wanted to truly stop crying and be able to remember her in a different way.
mm,
And so a mutual friend of my now husband and I introduced me to Todd. We worked together at Goodwin Hypnosis, and he basically introduced us, and I met with him for career advice because I was thinking about doing hypnotherapy anyway around that time. I was thinking of switching
mhm,
careers and how I could help people without any medication. And hypnotherapy, using the power of someone's mind, sounded fascinating, to
mhm.
say the least, magical in a way. Like, how is that even possible? And so I was very curious to learn more. And to make a longer story longer, I asked him questions, and I thought at that point that you could only do hypnosis for fears, phobias, and addictions. I had no idea that you could do it for anything, practically anything. I didn't know that. And so throughout our conversation, when I was asking him questions, um, I asked him if it could work for grief because he sort of knew where I was coming from.
Right.
When I reached out to him, I said I watched my mom go through chemo, radiation, surgery, and there's got to be a better way to help people, possibly
Mhm.
even prevent getting something like cancer to begin with, because, stress lowers the immune and disease
Yeah.
can come up. So I asked him if it could help for grief. He didn't know what I was going through. He just kind of knew what was leading me in that direction. And he said, absolutely. And I said, well, really? I says, I can't believe it. And so he said, what would you say to me if I told you you could be grateful for your mom dying of cancer the way she did.
Yeah, yeah,
And
wow.
I just said, I'd tell you that's impossible.
Hmm.
And he's like, why? And I said, because that just sounds too good to be true. There's just no way. I have no idea how that could even be possible.
Yeah.
So he, in essence, rolled up his sleeves, and I scheduled an official consultation with him. At the end of it, I slammed down my credit card, basically, and we got to work. And in less than 4 weeks, seeing him just 4 times, I was fine. The flashbacks were gone. We worked on flashbacks, I think, on week 2, and within minutes they were gone and they have not come back. And that was in 2014.
Wow.
And I'm able to remember her as happy and healthy. I was just so blown away by my results that I was convinced, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is it. Like, I've been wondering since high school, what is it going to be? And it took me to go through something that terrible,
Hmm.
right? Or as I labeled terrible, to turn into something terrific. So, am I grateful? Yes, because had it not happened, I wouldn't have probably not have had this career. I was at a dead end career, dead end relationship, just didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I
Hmm.
had an idea what I wanted to do. I just wasn't sure how I was going to do it. And it opened the doors for so many beautiful things and so much fulfillment in truly what I do. Um, and a beautiful new relationship.
Yeah.
So, am I happy about it? No, I do miss her sometimes, of course, but I'm definitely grateful. I definitely see how it served me, and looking back, I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. And I think like what you're saying is so powerful because so often we are weighted down by our experiences, and that's all we allow. We don't allow to see the purpose, or we don't make purpose out of it, and we don't realign like our energy, our feelings, our knowledge of this experience to something different. I was listening to a podcast this morning by Lori Santos, and they were talking about tuberculosis, which is like terrible disease, and out of that terrible disease, Stetson hats came to be because apparently the creator had it, was told to move west, moved west, got better, figured out that the hats there didn't support what you need because of the rain, so he created the hat. And it's like if he had never gotten tuberculosis, he would not have been in that place. So when we can take like the journey and the story and the life experiences, well, I never say that we negate them or we bypass them. It's more about embracing them differently. And I think it's pretty empowering that you've been able to do this with such a sensitive experience that you've had,
Hmm.
because losing a parent, but losing a parent in the way you did, and just being able to see the beauty that has risen out, that's really amazing. So thank you. I appreciate you sharing, because I know that there's people that are going through that right now, or that are going through something different, and they're seeing themselves with a new potential because of your words. So I
Hmm.
appreciate that. So you realized in that moment that this is what you wanted to do, because that was one of my questions. I was like, what was the moment that you knew this is what you wanted to do? And how did you even come to find hypnotherapy? Was it like a Google search? Was it a referral? How did that come together?
So I was just looking up online holistic natural ways to help people.
Mhm,
And of course, I came across acupuncture, Reiki, things like that. Um, and I had done those things and it didn't get me there. It didn't do it
mhm,
for me. So I wanted to look into something that could go deeper.
mhm,
And I came across hypnotherapy, and there was an online school, because where do you go to school for this? Where do
mhm,
you? And so I got brochures and everything in the mail. I was ready to sign up, and then I met Todd, and he also certified people. So I didn't have to do it online. I just went down the street and did it in person. And then a year or two later, I think 2 years later, I got board certified along with master certified in NLP or neurolinguistic programming. So
Mhm.
it started with an internet search. And then right around that time, I got introduced to him.
Wow, I love it. That's always how, like, the power of just divine alignment, the fact that it was right there. And yeah, what are you noticing when you're working with clients? What are those common themes that you tend to help people work through?
The most common thing I see is anxiety. And of
Hmm.
course, anxiety is not really the problem. It's a symptom of an underlying thought that
Hmm.
creates the feeling. And the thought usually comes from a belief system. So thought provokes emotion. With every thought we have, there's a feeling attached to it. And based on how we feel about that thought, we behave in a certain way. Even avoiding something is doing something. So to change behavior, you go back, change how you feel
Hmm.
based on the thought. And the thought can change when the belief system changes. So that's where the root is. And that's how I'm able to successfully help people reduce, usually eliminate their anxiety once and for all.
Hmm.
And it could have been because of different things. It could have been abuse when they were younger. It could have been any sort of trauma, whether it's big T or little t, can really impact someone's self-worth. Everyone has self-worth issues to varying
Hmm.
degrees,
Yeah.
and it's usually those beliefs are usually imprinted in childhood, worthiness or worth less than most people, not worthy of love, not worthy of success, not feeling safe. So those are the common beliefs: is safety,
Hmm.
worthiness, and self-efficacy. They can handle it. They can trust themselves. They can get through pretty much anything. And they know more than they think they know. They just
Hmm.
believe that they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the more and more we pay attention to our language and what we say on the outward expression of repeats, like the I cannot, I am not, I am this, I all of that just reinforces the belief system, and we're so unaware of it. Like, I
Mhm.
think that because of our disconnection from ourselves, we walk around saying all of these things, and they're just reinforcing that pattern and the belief. And what I'm hearing you say is that there's the root cause, which is ultimately the patterning and the belief system. So, really, the belief system at the core of what we believe. And I see it all the time in my practice. Like, people really come in with very uneasy foundations, and so their understanding of themselves is so disjointed that they don't have the ability to trust, and they can't even begin to understand, like, how do I navigate who I am as a human. So, and that's really interesting. Is there like a particular experience, without breaking confidentiality or anything, that you'd like to share outside of your own, that you know is really has impacted a client?
Yes. So there's actually two.
Okay.
One was during my first few years of practice. I had a client who she came to me for her consultation. Oh, I was going to have the pages here. I still have them printed out. Um, she came to me with literally like 2 pages front and back. So like 4 pages of all the things she wanted to help. She had problems with and things that she wanted to improve. And I first looked at it and I went, oh my God. But as I was reading it with her, I was reading it, I said to her, 99% of these issues are symptoms. And I underlined root causes, like she said, worthiness and, wanted to love herself more and things like that. I said, what I see here is just these two things. If we work on these two things, everything else should get better without even
Mhm.
having to touch it, because that's just how this works. When you pull it out by the root, that's it. There's no more weed. You don't have to trim it. You don't have to manage it. You don't have to analyze it. You don't have to stomp on it. You don't have to spray weed killer on it. You get it out by the root, it's gone. And so what had happened to her is her mother basically sex trafficked her to a Indian guru.
Mhm.
Obviously, her mother was very disempowered, and her father was out of the picture.
Mhm.
So she wanted enlightenment. And
Mhm.
so she gave this guru everything, money, possessions, time. And then finally, one day, she said to the guru, her mother said to the guru, I've given you everything. Where's my enlightenment?
Mhm.
And he said, you haven't given me everything yet. I want your daughter.
Wow.
So throughout her whole teenage years, she lost her virginity to this man. She's being raped by
Mhm.
this man. She's having
Mhm.
these relations with him, kind of forced by her mother.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she had literally a long list of things she wanted to
Mhm.
improve. And so that was her trauma. But the real trauma she had was with her mother,
Mhm.
because her mother didn't keep her safe. She couldn't trust her mom. And if her mom was doing this, the mind makes associations to try to make sense of the world and the people in it. So it made the association that she must not be as worthy as other people if her mom's doing this to her. That means
Okay.
she's worth less. That means she's cheap. She's this, she's whatever. And
Mhm.
so this was the real problem, is what it
Okay.
said about her.
Mhm.
So that's what we really worked on, was that the issues with her mom. Of course, we touched on some of the bigger moments with the guru, but that
Mhm.
wasn't really her problem. It wasn't what he did, it was what her mother did.
Yeah.
And so I worked with her. We did a 7-session program.
Mhm.
And after those 7 sessions, about 2 months later, she was waiting in the waiting room for her last session. And I went to go get her. This is when I used to see people in person in Miami
Mhm.
Beach. And she was highlighting things like in a notebook. And I thought she was doing something for school. So I didn't really say anything about it. She comes in, big, huge smile on her face with that same list. And she said, everything I've highlighted got better.
Mm.
Candace, everything got better except like her fear of sharks, which I told her is completely different and that's not going to get better, because that's a different protocol. And she understood that. So it was
Yes.
like fear of sharks and like some other thing like that, heights or something.
Mhm.
And we knew that that was going to stay the same unless she wanted to work on that separately. She couldn't believe it. And I was just so proud of her. And she was one of the most memorable people I've ever worked with,
Mhm.
and so fulfilling. And she was just so grateful. Sometimes I still check in with her, and she's doing great, and she's a mom now. But I also had a client within the last year who did phenomenal, and she
Mhm.
left me a video testimonial, so I can say her name if it slips out.
Mm.
But she was present when her brother shot himself,
Mm.
and she had flashbacks of the sound and the images, and um, she was on medication. She was taking, I think it was Zoloft,
Mhm.
and she was only upping the medication because it wasn't enough. And she was her go-to was Diet Dr. Pepper, and she was drinking like
Mm.
8 of them a day,
Oh my gosh.
which is a lot of caffeine
Mhm.
and frying your brain. And
Mm.
so she didn't want to be doing that anymore, but she felt really guilty about it because she would hide it from her husband. Like whenever he would go out, she would order it to be
Wow.
delivered from Walmart, and then she would hide it in places. So even he wasn't aware of how bad it was for her.
Yeah.
And she felt really guilty about it. Even though it's just soda, she just felt awful about it, and she really wanted to get off medication. And so um, I was able to help her. We cleared her memories within minutes.
Mhm.
And from one moment, she was visibly upset, and then the next moment, she was just laughing about it.
Wow.
And so, I like to incorporate fun when I
Mhm.
help my clients overcome this, because why not?
Yeah, yeah.
And,
I'm
they've
not a
been crying
huge
about it
fan.
enough. And so, it's normal to feel a little discomfort, because that's a good state to be in, to work with the feeling.
Mhm.
And then within minutes, they're usually smiling, laughing. Sometimes they're just neutral, like unaffected by it. Like it's
Yeah.
not there anymore.
Yeah.
The feeling's not there.
Mhm.
So um, those two were very satisfying for me. And the woman who saw her brother kill himself, he shot himself. Throughout our sessions, each week she was able to lower her dose a little more. And she was in tears telling me how grateful she was because she never thought she'd be able to go a week without it, let alone and then 2 weeks and then 3 weeks and then 4 weeks. And then she's like, I haven't touched Zoloft in a month and I feel fine. And I'm not drinking Diet Dr. Pepper. I'm not, I don't have the flashbacks anymore. I don't feel
Mhm.
guilty anymore. I don't regret anything anymore. She actually was able to come to a point of gratitude as well for what happened. And looking back, she wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's both of those stories are just the so powerful, right? And just the ability to, again, work through our trauma so that we're not holding on to it, and to be able to fully see it, I think, is what you're gifting people, is the ability to then reconnect. So in a session, you're helping them to rewire, question mark, their automatic thoughts and processes and what their beliefs are and associated patterns. So if I'm following correctly, like hypnotherapy is a part of that process of reprogramming, correct?
Yes, and NLP as well.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I combine NLP in my sessions
Mhm.
as well to make it even more powerful, just exponentially more powerful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the more I feel like the more we understand about how we operate, which I'm a huge nerd on this stuff. So I've like read so many books on how we operate. It's insane, but it's interesting, right? Like the more that we can gather how we actually internalize and process, it makes that part of going through the change and transformation, I feel, so much easier. And having a practitioner like you that's there to support and guide and empower, because what I really love and what I keep hearing is that you're not trying to keep clients forever. And that is something that I am very anti, even in my practice. Like, I want people to feel empowered to do this work on their own and have their autonomy back, because we've given it away to so many things, right? So many things. And I think it's empowering that you, as a practitioner, you're like, yeah, I don't need to work with you for this long term. I can really do it in this period of time, and we can see that improvement, and you can go on about your life.
Hmm.
And to me, that is the most like deepest form of transformational work that you can provide as a practitioner. So I just want to commend you for that, because you don't hear that often. We're always hearing people like, oh, you need this. I see it in my practice. Like when people were, it's like that 8 weeks, like they can do so much in like 8 sessions. You're just blown away by it. So again, thank you for that. And, if there's one thing that you really hope that people understand and take away from the work that you're doing and hypnotherapy, what would that be? Like the biggest takeaway that you hope they gain from today?
Well, I could take that a step further and say what I wish people knew.
Hmm.
I wish people knew, and I wish there was more awareness, accurate awareness, not what we see in
Hmm.
movies and everything about how this sort of work, subconscious work, is so powerful and effective. I can't tell you how many clients my husband and I have seen that say, I've tried everything.
Hmm.
And we're like their last resort. And
Hmm.
then it works fabulously. And they wish that they'd seen us first and sooner. They would have saved them a lot of not just money, but time, suffering, coping, feeling terrible.
Hmm.
And so many people have said that they wish that they would have done this a lot sooner.
Hmm.
I wish people knew that they have the power to change. You know, a lot of people think this is just the hand I was dealt with and you got to live with it. And it's not true. That's not true. You can change. You just have to want it and be accountable and understand how it's not what happened, it's your perception of what happened that is causing your suffering. You can't, I don't have a time machine, can't go back in time and change things, but I can change how you feel based on how you're viewing it, how you interpreted it or whatever's going on. And that's the key. And if I just wish people knew that it's not what happens, it's their reaction to it. That's the problem. And that can change. And it can change easily. And it doesn't have to be a painful, grueling process. And Todd years ago said, "What would you say to me if I told you could be grateful for your mom dying of cancer the way she did?" I was like, "I'll tell you that's impossible." Well, that was debunked. It is absolutely possible, and I'm proof of that. And I stand by it. And, I wish people knew that they didn't have to cope. They don't need to take medications. Of course, medication is important for
Right.
people who are schizophrenic or suicidal. Then yes, absolutely, there's a time and place for medication. But
Absolutely
for
right.
anxiety or for depression or mood stabilizers,
Yeah, mood
it's
stabilizer. Yeah.
it's unnecessary. There's a solution, and it's not harmful. It actually is extremely helpful and can help you grow. And I just wish people had that awareness that it's possible, it's doable. And in my opinion, what chiropractic was 10, 20 years ago is kind of where hypnosis is today. And that's basically it.
Yeah, no, I love it because you hit on so many things that I value out of our conversation that we've had before and even today is again just bringing awareness to what the practice is. And we are seeing this shift in understanding as a collective that the way we're doing life is not working. And so I think that's why these different practices are being elevated so that we can come back to them, because I'm sure they were there, thousands of years ago. And we are waking up to remember that, again, we have choice. And like you said, our perceptions are built over time. And I mean, we are told how we should feel and react to everything in life. Like when you think about it, like that's what you made me think of is like the movies tell us how we should respond. We should, if this happens in our life, we need to cry. If this happens, we need to be angry. We are dictated on so many levels what we need to internalize and then externally like speak into existence. So man, my mind is going pretty insane right now thinking about all of it because I'm just like, wow, like
Well,
we,
there's one more thing I wanted to mention, so you can give your mind a break for a moment.
yeah, you can feel it.
The main reason why this kind of work that I do works so well is because the subconscious mind is where our belief system is. It's where our emotions are. It's where our habits are, our behaviors, our imagination is all in the subconscious mind. Limiting beliefs, belief system. So that's why things that people do at a conscious level, such as traditional talk therapy, self-help books, affirmations, meditating, whatever it is, only goes so far because that's not where the problem is. You can
Right.
identify what the problem is, but you still have a problem.
Yeah.
Revelation doesn't always equal resolution.
Right.
So the key is subconscious work. That's where things can truly shift at the root in a natural way without even really having to try to change. It just happens. And it's really cool to notice as you notice improvements every week without even having to try or using willpower. Because the problem with willpower is two things. One, it operates at a conscious level. Two, it runs out.
Yeah. Well, and it's the Band-Aid, right? Like I am 1000% about understanding the root cause of why we behave a certain way, why our body's reacting a certain way, because everything is a signal. And so once we can figure out where that's lying, because I agree, like that's why I came into my practice was because the traditional things were not working and I would feel like garbage every time I would finish going in to talk about all the things. I'm like, okay, I got it. Like, I know what's going on with me. I need a solution at this point. So I love that you like remind us again that we really can do so much work when we understand where the work needs to happen. So
Right.
Man, okay. So if people want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to do so? Do you have a program you're launching or anything like that that you want to share?
So, how people can connect with me, they can go to our website, which is
Mhm.
www.goodwinhypnosis.com.
Mhm.
They can email me at gina@goodwinhypnosis.com. As
Mhm.
far as programs, not at the moment, but every month we do what's called a wake up call, and we discuss subjects. Sometimes we answer questions that were submitted. Sometimes it can seem a little controversial because just based on our experience, we just know what works and the beliefs that people have that keep them stuck. And so people are more than welcome to join that. And if you're wondering if I could help you, you could go take a 1 minute survey. It's at www.goodwinhypnosis.com/survey. And if you mention warrior, you can get a deeply relaxing self hypnosis audio and an eye opening educational video.
Amazing. I will make sure that this goes out in the newsletter that I provide, as well as on this live, so that people who are watching receive that opportunity. And we'll just try to make it super easy so that, yes, you guys can just go and take care of yourself. I mean, again, I call people into my inner circle, I think, because I see the power within all of us to really create change. And when we had our first conversation, that was a couple hours long, which is not uncommon for me, but like I was just amazed by the work that you're doing, your story, and the purpose that you have behind the work that you're doing. And it's coming from such a genuine heart space. And you're really trying to simplify all of this. And I love that. So, again, thank you to everyone who attended. Thank you, Gina, for taking your time out. Like, I know you're busy. And so I appreciate you gifting us your presence and time. And I guess we'll see you guys later.
Thank you, too. It was my pleasure.